you know, I know you guys hear all the time here in Chicago about the violence that we deal with in Chicago all the time. So when you have like a 14, 15, 16 year old and you're shooting people and your innocent people are caught in the crossfire, I said the question is always asked, well, how do you deal with that? So my response was, I believe that we have to hold the parents financially and legally responsible for the actions of their children. Do you not agree with that, or not? I know that's
what,
a
what
lot to
happens when
say.
you have nothing? What happens when you already don't have any? Do you send the parents to jail?
In my estimation, I know that's harsh, but I would say yes to a certain degree, because when you bring a child into this world, you are responsible for that human being. You are responsible to know where they are, what they're
Sure.
doing. It is on you. So you can't just say, well, I went to work and they knew they were supposed to be in the house and they did X, Y, and Z. Why is there not someone there that's watching over them when you can't be there? You are responsible.
But you know what I think. Um, Here's how you got to look at this.
Mm-hmm.
This is a generational thing.
I agree with
This
that.
is not just. This is not just that mother of that child.
Uh-huh.
This is that mother's mother
Uh-huh.
of
Yes, yes.
that child, and so on and so
Yes,
on.
yes.
It's it's a strategic weapon to keep us in the same position. So one thing about successful people or people, or I'll say other,
Okay.
sometimes other look like us,
Yeah.
is the environment is teachable,
Mm-hmm.
because when they come home they got food. When they go to sleep, there's a nice bed
Yes.
and fresh linens,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're talking about a peaceful drive, walk home,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to, I gotta watch my back. I gotta make sure that the gangs don't attack me, or I gotta make
Mm-hmm.
sure I don't get robbed,
Okay.
or I gotta make sure, this uncle that likes to get a little too close to me
Mm-hmm.
when he's drinking. Like, there's a whole slew of
Mm-hmm.
nuances that affect us and cause us to react how we react. So is it necessarily that child's fault that he's lawless? Or if it's his mother's fault because she can't control him, because she never had the tools to teach him?
See, I agree with everything you just said right there, and I've seen that because I used to teach, and I taught in a predominantly black area that was had issues. So some of the same issues you talk about the kids, I have had firsthand knowledge of that. I've been privy to that, and I've also seen parents come in who are not behaving in a manner that your child would respond in a
Sure.
respectable manner. So I've seen both coins of that, and I'm going to always say it goes back to the parents. It always goes back to the parent. You're not doing your job in some way. And some people say some
Right.
kids are
So
just bad. And I say that very well could be, but why is that child bad? Why if that child is see a mom entertaining a number of people or men coming in and out of their homes, mom is
right.
not there.
Sure.
There's many factors that factor into this.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think that there is, you can't, there is a certain burden that does weigh on the parent regardless of what the
Absolutely.
circumstance is.
Yes.
But I also will say we have to really understand that there is a system that's in place that keep us oppressed. And a lot of our problems is that we accept a culture that is not ours.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, look at the images in the music that we are giving. No, there's only a few black labels that are on a certain level that you hear them on the radio. Bad Boy, a couple of those. I'm talking like that level. Rockefeller,
Okay.
all
Okay.
of those
Okay.
things.
Uh-huh.
Is it ironic that all of them had to sell us drugs and call women out their names and womanize and talk that stuff
Mm-hmm.
for them to be in that platform?
I love what you said right there, and that's very interesting to me because I have said that many times. I have conversations with people. That's not a culture that I ever I don't want to say identified
Sure.
with, but I wasn't accepting of you calling women out of their names and
Right.
the whole thing. I never accepted that. And that's why I had a conversation the other
Right.
day about women now. Why are so many young black women identifying themselves, call themselves the B word? You know, you can't, when I was a child, you can't call me that. You can't call me that today.
Right.
That's not acceptable to me.
Right.
And I'm never going to identify myself. I hear some women say, I'm that B. No, I'm not that.
Right.
I'm never
Right.
going to identify myself as that. So why are we taking these negative connotations about ourselves, and we're trying to put a positive spin on it? That's crazy to me. Why are we doing that?
Well, because you take a person that's getting abused, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, getting their butt beat on a
Mhm.
regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
They still try to put on makeup to cover it up, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
So that's what we do with how we feel about ourselves. All of that's hurt. All of that's pain right
Yep.
there. That's being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier to take that word that I'm called. At some point, I'm going to start believing it.
That's
And when you
sad.
start
But that's
identifying
sad.
yourself as such,
But
now
that's
you
sad.
accept the title.
So I want to be in a room with so many young females and black females and say, what do you think about yourself? Because I'm gonna be honest, there's not a woman that can look at me and say, hey B. There's not a man that can look at me and say, hey B, and I'm gonna
Right.
respond. So why do you
Right.
respond to that? You don't respond to that. You never or you look at me and say, what's up, N word or whatever. All of those
Right.
are derogatory. Why do you do that? Why is that accepting? Why do we accept that?
But you're now looking at, you don't accept it because you know a time that was different. A lot of these girls that's moving around now, these young girls, grew up listening to that as a child. They mamas playing it in the car loud.
Yeah.
Trina, like look how long Trina's been around.
Yeah.
Look how long little Kim's been around. So now this is all they know. This is just music. They don't understand the power of words and how the power of words do affect your psyche of how you see yourself.
Absolutely.
Because these are black women that are saying this to you. Just like back in the days when Jay-Z first came out, Biggie and all of them,
Uh-huh.
the music was, the cool thing was the drug dealer. Now, it's cool to be the junkie. So now
Wow.
you got a bunch of pookies running around. And that's cool now. Everybody talking about being on lean. Everybody want to, pop pills, and that's cool. But what does that do for your life? That keeps you stagnant, right? That keeps you still. That
Absolutely.
keeps you in the same condition. That's what the culture is. The culture is not ours. The culture doesn't tell us to thrive. We don't own BET. We don't own these radio stations.
See, that's what I said. I had a conversation with somebody, and they were saying, "Well, don't black people own BET?" I said, "No. Where have you been? No. BET have not been owned by
For
since
years.
for years. Exactly. Because we were talking about the whole Nick Cannon thing, about the whole Viacom, and then they brought up the whole BET thing, and I saw somebody said, "BET not owned by black people. Where have you been?" But also, since I brought that up, I'm gonna touch on that real quick. What do you think about Nick Cannon and what he said? Did you find what he said to be, as they want to say, anti-Semitism? Did you find him what he said to be that? Because I'm gonna tell you, I didn't.
What did he say? What did he say exactly?
Okay, let me try. I'm gonna paraphrase it exactly because I can't remember. Basically, what he was saying was that the first people on earth were people of color, and he said, and they were of Hebrew, and so he said, what he was saying was that, and then so we should have been the first people. Is basically what he said. But it's basically what he was saying is that we were the first people, Hebrew people. People got offended by that because they were saying that wasn't necessarily the truth. And honestly, that is the truth. The Hebrew people or people of color were the first people.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is what I said too is that why are people so offended by it? Because the Holocaust and slavery was pretty much the same. You took women and children, you raped them, you threw them in concentration camps, you put them on plantations. I said, what is the difference? That's what I was telling me. And I had a conversation with a Jewish woman, and I asked her the same question. She said, there is no difference. So I said, so why people got up in arms about it? I said, people don't want to hear the truth.
Well, the problem is, his boss is a Jew. She
Absolutely.
didn't take it. Doesn't matter about your truth.
Uh-huh.
It matters about your position and your ability to say it.
Mm-hmm.
If he had his own platform, he could say that freely without any retaliation.
But here's the thing: he was on
But
his
you
own. He was
can't.
on his own. He wasn't on one of their networks at the time. It was his own podcast, so he wasn't on any of her networks or anything.
No, but you know how fragile America
Yeah.
is, right? You know how sensitive
Uh-huh.
America is.
Uh-huh.
So all it takes is one person to get offended and write it in, and everybody's so sensitive now of backlash. You're talking about a time where you can say anything about anybody, and if they have any kind of following, just like that, you can turn them against them.
But what I find amazing though, what I find amazing was that people like black folks like Dwayne Wade and some other ones, they came out and they turned against him because they said they didn't agree that it was hate speech. I said I listened to it, the podcast. I read what was written, and I said the man was simply saying the truth. Why are we so afraid
Sure.
to hear the truth? That's what I'm saying. What makes what they endured more horrific than what we endured as slavery? What makes it more horrific? It was all horrible. It was all horrific.
The difference is they own the ability.
I hear you. I get it.
86 you.
I get it. So what is it gonna take?
That's the difference.
I said, so what is it gonna take
What is it gonna take?
What is it gonna take for us to say, okay, I own this platform, and I need to say what I want to say. Because I think the only way that the United States is going to heal is that people have to be afraid to have the hard talk. You have to be able to ask the question and say, okay, you white, so why do you feel this way? And when things first started happening with George Floyd and that phrase, white privilege, came out, and I said, I thought about it, I said, you know what? That's it exactly. That's what it is. They couldn't relate to what we deal with on a daily basis. And that is white privilege.
Sure, but here's the problem. Let's say you walking down the street and one of those little girls that call herself a B or whatever come up to you and try to have an intellectual conversation. How are you going to receive that?
You asking me that question?
Yes.
And she one of
that's
those.
Essentially is what's happening. You have people. The conversation doesn't need to be with anyone else at this time for our community. The conversation needs to be with us. And we need to get ourselves together so when we come to the table, we not just yelling and cussing.
I agree with that.
I told you this.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We have to respect ourselves. But again, with that being said, we have to attach ourselves or detach ourselves from those things that keep us in this position. So we gotta stop listening to music that encourage that type of behavior. We gotta stop watching movies and videos like that. We have to completely reevaluate ourselves and how we see ourselves, and then start from there and build our own community, our own school. Now this has always seemed like so far-fetched, but it's not, because you don't necessarily need everybody to sit at that table. You got enough billionaires in the black community where you can build that structure.
You think so?
And everybody else. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
See, I don't know if we have enough, but do you think it's realistic to say, okay, we're here in the U.S., so when people say have your own, do you think that it's fair to say we just want to, I guess, just franchise each other or just stay within our own community and not deal with other races? Because I don't think that's realistic to say that.
I don't think it's realistic. Look at what Tyler Perry did.
Okay.
Tyler Perry took and built his own studio.
Right.
So earlier part of this year, you had pretty much most of the biggest black actors on his set, on his studio at the same time making movies. Now, that's just one part of the puzzle.